Okay, let's continue our series on Stoicism, where we go through the Enchiridion, in the translation How to Be Free by Professor A.A. Long. And for the record, I have put an affiliate link in the description of this video. You don't have to use it, but if you were thinking of picking up the book, you could pick it up. Amazon, affiliate link, that means I get a tiny bit of profit. By no means are you forced to do that, okay? I just wanted to point that out. Now, let's not waste time. Let's continue where we left off. Chapter 25. If someone has been placed ahead of you at a banquet or in a reception line or in being called on as a consultant, you should be pleased that he has got these things if they are good. But if they are bad, don't be upset because you didn't get them. Keep in mind that you cannot expect to get an equal share of the things that are not up to us without doing the same things others have done. If you don't hang out at someone's door or go around with him or flatter him, how can you have the same share of his regard as the person who does these things? If you don't pay the price these things are sold at and you want to get them for free, you would be unfair and greedy. What is the cost of lettuces? An O-ball, maybe. That was a silver coin. If someone pays an O-ball and gets the lettuces, don't think you have less than he has. While he has the lettuces, you have the unspent O-ball. It's just the same in the cases we are considering. You were not invited to someone's dinner party. That's because you didn't pay the host the price of the dinner. He sells it for flattery, for getting attention. Pay the price it's sold for then, if you think it's worth it. But if you want to get it without paying up, you are being greedy and stupid. Do you have nothing instead of the dinner? Of course you do. You don't have to flatter the man you didn't want to flatter or to deal with the crowd around his door. Very interesting chapter. We live in very political times. Times where sometimes you have to do certain things to get certain things, where you may have to invest in certain things, where you may have to, let's put it very bluntly, suck up to people to get a promotion, or where you have to go through all sorts of trouble to get ahead in life. And I think the point that Epictetus is trying to make here is one that really applies to us all, and that is very appropriate now, just as it was in his day and age 2,000 years ago, right? Actually a bit over that, long time ago. And that is that point. You can choose what you do to attempt to get ahead in life. That's up to you, right? But if you do choose to do that, understand the consequences for your practice as a Stoic. Because if you do certain things which kind of require you to let go of your virtue, then by definition in the Stoic mind, you are going down the path of vice, because it has to be one or the other. In the Stoic mind, there is no gray area. There is virtue and there is vice. One is good, one is not good. One is the path to wisdom and eudaimonia, a good life, and the other is the path to nothing. Not a good life, not a satisfying life, nothing. And that is a very interesting concept. And you can take this a little farther, I think. It's not just about getting ahead in life, maybe getting that promotion or whatever it is you were looking for. It's also about other things in life. Life in general. You can do certain things to get something out of it, but those certain things, again, may not be virtuous things. And they can be small things, but you are still compromising your virtue. And compromising your virtue, again, in the Stoic mind, is never a good thing, because striving for virtue, striving to do the right thing, is the only path to wisdom. And wisdom and a happy life go hand in hand for Stoics. You cannot lead a happy life without wisdom, So you need to pursue virtue because virtue is the only path to wisdom. And Epictetus expresses this very nicely in that other series of books. So I remember I've talked about this before. So the Enchiridion is kind of an expurgated or a compressed version of Epictetus's teachings. But then there is also the 4 books of the Discourses. The last 4 books unfortunately were lost over time, but we still have the first 4 books, which are written up by Arrian, his same student who wrote up the Enchiridion. But these are the Discourses. These 4 books are much more extensive. Arrian claims that they are basically verbatim transcriptions of Epictetus's lectures. And in the first book of the Discourses, Epictetus says this, which I think ties into this theme very well, and it's also a nice illustration of his kind of sarcastic sense of humor. He says, "Only consider at what price you sell your freedom of will. If you must sell it, man, at least do not sell it cheap." Interesting, right? So in other words, you can choose to compromise your virtue, but then at the very least, make sure that it's worth it. Because once you go down that path, it's very hard to come back. Your freedom of will, same thing. You always have that freedom. You have the freedom to choose. You can choose to do A or you can choose to do B. But very often you can't do both. And I very much enjoy how Epictetus describes this. That simple analogy of the lettuces is actually very nice. You can choose to buy a lettuce. You can choose to suck up, let's say, to your boss. Let's make this really concrete and something that I think applies to our world too. You can choose to suck up to your boss, and maybe you'll get that promotion, which, by the way, is not certain, right? This is not a certainty. But sure, you can do that. You can sell out your character, suck up to your boss, flatter your boss, right? Or you can choose not to do that. It's like the lettuces. You can purchase the lettuces, and then you will have lettuce. And maybe if you suck up to your boss, you will get that promotion. But if you choose not to spend your obol, your money, you won't have the lettuce. But you will have the money, unspent. If you choose to not suck up to your boss, you may not get that promotion, but your virtue is intact, because you have done nothing to blemish your character. You have done nothing that goes against the path of virtue. You have done nothing that may be vice. You've been true to yourself. There'll be consequences, but what do you prefer? Some people would prefer the promotion. A Stoic would prefer the virtue, so that at the end of the day, he or she can look at the mirror and say, I've been a good person. And whatever you do, there will be consequences. Is the promotion worth it if you've had to do things that kind of go against your character? If you would have to flatter someone insincerely just so that you would get a job or a better job? That's difficult, right? And I'm definitely not saying this is the right answer, this is the wrong answer. All I'm saying is be aware of what you do and be aware of the consequences of your choices, and be aware of what they mean for your prokopse, your progress on the path to becoming a sophos. That is the whole point of Stoicism. to become a wise, they would say so far as wise man, but that's because in that time there was no gender neutral language. A wise person. And as I said, a wise person in the mind of a Stoic must be a virtuous person, because you cannot be wise without virtue. And that's what we all try. If you are a Stoic, or you try to be a Stoic, that's what you strive for. You try to become a wise person. You can't, because you'll always make mistakes. But that's okay. It's not necessarily an end goal. It's the path that matters. And all the choices you make on that path matter. And if you make as many proper choices as you can, I think in the long run you will come out on top. Because you do the wise, virtuous things. And if you want to look at it from another perspective, I was watching a talk by Massimo Pigliucci, great author, wrote the book How to Be a Stoic, which is highly recommended. And in this talk, he describes this path too, and he says, when you're on your deathbed, what would you like to tell your children? Would you like to say, I had 5 cars and 6 houses and this and that? Because maybe, not necessarily, but maybe you did some things that were not entirely virtuous. You may have compromised your character, but it made you a lot of money. Or would you rather tell your children, I was a good person? There's no right or wrong answer. In the mind of a Stoic there is, but in our day and age there may not be a right answer. And I think the important thing is that this is philosophy. It's meant to make you think. And that's all there's to it. So, be mindful of your progress on the way. Do the virtuous thing. I hope this was useful. Gladly see you again next time. Bye.